All right, guys, special edition of the Blueprint Academy podcast. Weekend, I are hosting a dear friend, Marco from All Weather Insulated Panels. It's great to have you today, Marco. Thank you for spending a bit of time with us.
Anytime.
Seriously, we're going to take you up on that. So, let's start with how you got to here. Let's talk a bit about your journey through how you met BK and, what has, now you're leading kind of all the digital innovation at AWIP. Would love to get a snapshot of your journey. How did you get here?
Sure. So it's interesting that Brian and I kind of started our careers similar times. We met on a job site in Sacramento. I'm a civil engineer coming out of UC Davis by background. So got on the job site with Brian. I was in precast concrete then, and found my way into insulated metal panels around 2011. So time flies, man.
Wow.
But I've been in. The joke is that I've been playing with built Legos my entire career. It's always panels, right? But it was interesting as far as it goes. It was much smaller when I started. Over there, we're kind of hybrid, our own drafter / engineer / project manager, as happens with smaller companies. As it grows and some companies bought up other companies, there's a long story to tell there. Found my way managing the drafting team eventually. And then it kind of rolled into the innovation side when basically there was a shift, 5-6 years ago, where 2D started going to 3D, and BIM became like a hot topic, kind of a buzzword. Now we're kind of rolling to the AI base. And kind of in the middle of all that, being with this company opened up a lot of doors for me. As far as looking at the BIM space and the 3D space, leaned onto it, got my team on it, and then found my way to eventually director of digital construction, which is my current title is. And a lot of that has to do, like you said, just thinking ahead and seeing where our projects and processes can get more efficient with technology. And I guess I don't know if that answers the question, but that's kind of how they found my way into here.
No, I actually have a question about like the earlier days, like having been in the field, been drafting.
Yeah.
And those experiences that got you to where you are. I think that's a really important part of your story.
Sure. Yeah. My first few years, like Brian, I was a field engineer. So I was actually out there, checking welds and checking connections and stuff. It was fun work, right? Brian, like 110 degrees Sacramento, where they're like multi-year.
I remember. Sorry, Marco. You reminded me of a few things, but I remember because our offices were kind of like adjacent to each other. We all sat in this old building, and I would remember grabbing it felt like it was like a 10-foot level. And walking out to the field almost every day to check levelness of concrete, because that was a challenging.
Yep, that's right.
That was a challenging job because it was like this precast system. If you see my hands, and as the concrete would be placed, it would make the concrete settle. But sometimes it would settle too much, or sometimes it wouldn't settle enough. And that was a unique learning experience because concrete was all over the place just because they didn't know how the precast was going to act. So it was kind of. I would have learned more than I did, but that's stuck out to me. As you grabbed I almost felt like a 20-foot level as you're walking out the office every day.
That's right. The screen decks, right?
Yeah.
Checking the levelness and the post tension and the pretension being correct. Yeah, no, that's a fun memory.
Yeah.
And as far as drafting and stuff, you work through in the field. I love the field. I love being out there. But there's some value, obviously, to being a house cat. It's not doing the drafting stuff, but I think the nice thing, I don't know if this is where you're going with, but the nice thing about having the field experience when you take that back with you to the drafting table is what's kind of impractical, right? Yeah. One of my foremen taught me, and love the guy, said something along the lines, teasing me, junior engineer. I drew this detail for him, perfect on paper, right? And he's like, that's not an work engineer, and I'm like, well, And so he's like, go up there to the 14th floor and show me how you're going to reach that bolt. And I'm like, you know what, Benny, you're right. I have to make this. So the field experience is extremely beneficial. You can get it, but we might get into that topic later today, but that's kind of disappearing, right? So we have these folks are the career directors, career office folks that don't get a chance to do this. So we've done a couple of tools on our side to kind of supplement that experience.
Let's talk about those, because I think that the one thing that I will never give up is all the stairs that I had to climb, all the sidewalks that I had to do, and even before that, all the holes that I had to dig. I don't know if you guys ever did laboring, like I cleaned bricks for like 5 days once. It was awful.
Yeah.
Like, all those, I don't know why, but I think that those stars are really, really important, or whatever they are, those learning lessons. I think that they're really important. I think too often and this is maybe just a shout out to everybody, like, you gotta earn those stripes. Pretty cool. So let's talk a little bit more about those protocols that you just kind of mentioned, kind of coming out of it. How do you take your team now and give them that experience if they're new, or maybe how do you get them involved so that they're not too far away from the actual project itself? As again, talking about your design, your CAD teams.
Oh no, for sure. So depending on the job, really depending on the job that you get, depending on the company, or BK can attest to this. Some of them, they will send you out to the field, and like you said, it's like learning on the field, taking it back with you. But a lot of, I'd say, especially for our field here, I don't know a lot of IMP drafters that get a chance to go out to the field. Like, granted, I don't have a holistic knowledge of the entire industry. Just talking to my peers, right? So for us, what we did is like, okay, try to get back to the field whenever there is one close by, kind of, as part of the onboarding system, the project managers too. We try to get them into the shop, see their panels getting made, pulling like accessories and stuff. Stuff on a detail looks a certain way. You see it and you're like, oh, that's what the piece actually looks like. So one of the things we did from the digital side of things is I don't know if there's room for promotion here. That's definitely not the intent, but we have a tool on our website called the Glimpse 3D. Basically, it's if you want to think of it as like a bespoke little installation guide for each individual detail. And the cool thing about that tool is you can toggle layers on and off, make this translucent. One of the great things for that is our panel joint is a hidden joint system. So if you want to picture like, the panel joint a certain way, and then like it comes in, gets fast, and then like the next panel comes and goes off, you never get to see it, right? So when you use this tool, you toggle things and make them kind of transition. You can see where the sealants go and clips go. I remember that hitting a light bulb. One of our very veteran drafters. She's actually one of the best of the best. She's like, I see this now, and I understand how this comes together. It's that stuff you would get in the field that you kind of digitize. It's not the same, but it's better than not getting any experience.
Yeah, no, great point. I think that we're, I don't know, I would imagine somebody said this 20 years ago, but I'm going to say, I feel like we're getting to that point where people are just not getting the field experience, but I feel like that's a generational thing. I don't know. It's not like something somebody would have said a long time ago, but maybe it's repeating. I don't know. There's several
articles about kind of the disappearing workforce, right?
Oh yeah.
I remember I was talking to a peer in Japan, for example. Like, I'm not knocking younger, like I'm old and knocking younger generation, anything like that. But it's one of those, like, there's some labor roles people don't want to do, like the newer young first, the younger workers want to do. So they're utilizing, like, they're high on, like, how can we be super efficient? How can we use robotics? Like, there's all these things they're looking into to kind of supplement that lack of kind of incoming workforce.
That's true, and plus, I'm learning a lot of GCs are using offshore labor, or not labor, that's back-end support to handle all the paper side of things, right? So it's almost critically as important to get the submittal experience, see how things are on drawing before they go build. A lot of that's getting shipped out, so it's another gap that I see happening.
I think that the interesting risk here is that you're like outsourcing intelligence a little bit, which is obviously a risk, but let's not kind of go down there. I'm kind of more interested in what you talked about is a nice segue into kind of like the 3D and how you have been moving your teams. I think we've talked about that from the like AutoCAD worlds into Revit. And I think one thing that really impressed me, Marco, is all the training that you offered your crew. And I just thought that was kind of really impressive as part of kind of deepening people's skill sets, keeping them as a, keeping a solid team, high intelligence, high IQ level as it relates to the work that they do. I think that those are like very small but very big things. If that makes sense.
I'm happy you brought that up. It's actually, that's one of the things is like we have very good supervisor managers. They want to retain the team, like to a person you talk to them, but we don't hire people to push them out. Like we're going to do our best to keep you. And for me, I remember, like I mentioned, the company opened a lot of doors from training, education and stuff like that. What can I do as the manager to kind of push that forward to my guys, make them better at their jobs, help kind of future proofing, if you want to call it that, is how I tackle the 2D to 3D side. I'm like, there's always going to be a space for 2D. I'm happy to get into that as well. But when 3D starts making its way into like customer specifications and execution plans and stuff, it's like you're going to get locked out of jobs potentially, or big jobs even, if you don't have that skill set. And for me, okay, I have my folks that can do that, but I don't want to lock down my individuals either from taking on these kind of, high profile, super exciting jobs. So for me, like, okay, offer it up, make it part of a training program, make it free for the existing team. So there's no reason to say no. It's like, here, I'm giving you extra tools for your toolkit, and I'm opening up opportunities for you to take on whatever project you want. It's there for the taking.
Yeah, it's great.
You said a word that I love, which is future proof. I think that one thing that we have talked a bit about, or like, independent of this podcast, is kind of artificial intelligence, the place that it plays in your business. What areas have you explored, and what is interesting to you?
So yeah, there's two bits to that. It's funny because I'm fresh from Autodesk University. I went there with my typical manager. I think it was 3-ish weeks ago over in Nashville, which was super cool. I actually thought about calling you guys live and like, let's do a podcast like all in here. It's funny. The buzz, maybe next year, maybe get the BK. I've heard him take it. It was just really, really late. But the buzz for this one was AI and integration is kind of hand in hand. Here's this agent tool that you can use for this and this and this tool, and then the whole thing is like use AI to be more efficient, more efficient. So for us, sorry, kind of segued out of the thing, but for us, what we're doing on our team, where we started with that, is what can we do to make our processes more efficient? You're not looking to remove or replace the human, right? You're just trying to make it easier to get rid of the tedious stuff. So we looked at material takeoffs and like paperwork processing, stuff like that. I was talking to spec comparisons, things like that can, and obviously from the finance side and operation, there's all these things working out. So I'm just speaking from the design side of things. Talking about markup specifically, one of the big gaps we saw was I didn't really see any tools that was helping the plan check process. Right, it's super important. Like plan checks are where you can make or break a project. Like if I have a panel that's 10'3" and I put 10'6", my finger slipped and it doesn't get checked through the checking process, I have a bunch of remakes. Now, you could potentially ruin the job because of that. So I'm like, hey, is there something where an AI can, you're not going to replace a human plan check. That's super duper important, but maybe the AI is like, I don't know, like a junior level person that's kind of doing the pre-work that can then get up to the senior level person for that work. So that's where, BK put marked up, and, it's been going great for us.
Thanks. Yeah, Brian and I, we talk a lot about, he's got this framework, which is like surface level kind of issues, subsurface, kind of bit deeper. Think surface as, and I'll use my words, BK, it's kind of like, these could have a time or a cost or a quality impact, where like a subsurface has a cost and quality, or cost and time, or quality, like one or two of the three, and then the root, which is the most hardcore things that will have like all the impacts, right?
Yeah.
That they don't get these right. And I think to your point, Marco, those basic surface level things, like those should be floated automatically. And versus to your point where you're like, that bolt's not going to fit on the 14th floor. Like, and I think a nice underlining to this whole conversation, it's maybe why I want to talk about starting in the field, is I'll be eating my words in 20 years on this one. I just don't know if we'll ever be able to replicate that real life experience.
Yeah.
That real, like, I was out there and I got concrete on my boots, right? Like that stuff. So I'm probably going to get my words in 20 years.
It's funny too. One of the things we're doing on our set is the virtual reality. We're supplementing experience. We understand that just the logistics of we can't get everybody out to all over the world, right? So what can we do to supplement that experience? And I know there's not a generational thing. I don't want to sound like I'm yelling in the clouds here. But kid, like my daughter is one of our she's 12, but she's one of the folks, or one of kind of like our informal VR testing trainers. Like I know her generation likes that stuff. So I'm like, what can we do to make it exciting and have the flow support? So we're looking at all avenues digitally to kind of supplement a little bit of that. Again, to your point, Chris, like if you weren't missing it, there'd be nothing to supplement, right? So the fact that we're actually taking those steps means that there's something lacking there.
Yeah. Well, now we know who the next director of digital is going to be, Chris.
She's going to be my boss for sure.
Yeah, the goal is never to replace a human, but what we're finding is that a lot of these issues are going to come up anyways. Even if it is a simple call out missing, it's going to come back and bite the team somewhere, whether it is detrimental to the budget or schedule, that's yet to be determined. But no matter what, it's going to take somebody's time to address it and look for it, or call an architect, call a design team, and it's eventually it's going to cost you somewhere. So we're trying to get ahead of that and hopefully make these projects so smooth for you that you don't have to pick up the phone and call the architect, right? That's the goal.
Brian, what did we talk about early on, if you recall? Because it's I like to give the analogy of my team eating the elephant, right? You can't do it like one big bite. So you can be surface level things for me, and if you're saving me 30 seconds a sheet, doesn't sound like a lot, right? Because my team takes a while with the decks, they're super thorough. 30 seconds a sheet multiplied by 20 sheets per project multiplied by 400 projects over there. Now, how much time did you save me? Over there's kind of like an incremental ROI that I think sometimes is overlooked. And then in talking to you as we develop, like more about the AI obviously than I do. As we develop it, it gets faster and faster. Then you can start looking for kind of the next thing to look for, Yes. And now you have like the super powerful tool. You're saving a minute a sheet, a couple of minutes a sheet, and then your ROI is just huge at that point.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because we've talked to a few architects now, and they pretty much spend everything right up front, get that design done, and they ship it off, and then they bill 100% of their services. And so they hate coming back to fix things, right? It's like anybody does, but a couple of architects that we've spoken to, they're like, we don't want to come back to a job and correct some of these things. So that's why, they want to get ahead of the game and just have it right the first time. It's like everybody else does, but kind of that, I'm done with that project until I cleared out the cache and brain. Now I got to come back and reorganize. There's a lot of time there. So yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I do love that as an analogy, like clearing out like you're like, well done.
Yeah.
It's extra interesting to hear. So BK is seen in both jobs. Precast, you're on a project, maybe one project for 2 years, maybe two projects on 1 year. It's very IMPs are different, man. Like as a draft, I was working on 6 or 7 projects in a given week, like different phases, obviously. But I'll roll through 30 projects in a year. So it's a very different pace. Again, clearing out the cache, very real thing, especially on something faster paced like IMPs.
Yeah, definitely.
Man, this is actually a really great combo. This is good, man. I think that we covered some pretty good topics here. We talked about your experience, which I think again is just like my message to everybody is go get your hands all cut up. Like, learn how to do the thing, even if that thing's not very fun. You have great stories to tell when you're old and later in life.
I still got rebar scars on my shins, man, to this day from like 15, 20 years ago. They don't go away. It's good. It's a tough story.
Mark, I ripped my favorite Giant shirt on the Sacramento project when I was out there. Walked through a sud bay, which is wrong. I get it, but it was screwed on my shirt. So,
I really like that we talked a bit about this 2D to 3D technological transition. But I think what was most interesting to me was a story that you shared about your most senior drafter and how she just seeing that visual of how you said they it all clicked together. She's like, oh, I think that I remember that moment for me about 2007 when I paper drafted. That's how I learned how to draft. And then somebody showed me ArchiCAD, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that's a building on the screen. Yeah, pretty funny. So I love that, and I think that your view on AI is extremely practical. It's not like holistic process change, like everything. It's like, oh, let's find these cases where we can get efficiency improvements, because that's what technology should do. It shouldn't just be this big bad system that we have to implement. It could be this niche little capability that delivers a significant amount of value over time to the business. I just love that. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the time.
Of course.
So we get to have you back on maybe in a little bit.
Yeah, like I said, anytime.
All right, man. Marco, thank you a million. BK, as always, appreciate it.
thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.